Day one of AIM Expo. It's what's old is new again, and we have the return of the top 100. We have a return of a top 100 winning dealer. Bob, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Bob Henig. I own Bob's BMW Motorcycles. I founded Bob's Used Parts Incorporated back in 1981, and that became Bob's BMW in 1991.
But you had a real job before that. You were in the photography industry. And
I was a bit of an entrepreneur most of my life, from being a kid on up, everything from lawn mowing to cleaning people's garages out. That eventually morphed into a small home improvement company, painting, and then I was also a photographer for 7 years. I went to college for visual communications and was a freelancer, did everything from news to weddings to art shows to candid and environmental portraiture, and had a blast with it, but eventually wanted to get out of that and into something else. And my other hobby was motorcycles, and the line I standardly tell people is it's a hobby run amok that's been going on for 40 years.
Can't get out of it. So 40 years ago, what was your first bike? Well, actually, it may have been more than 40 years ago.
My first motorcycle was a 1972 Suzuki TS250. I bought that right after I graduated high school. During high school, I rode a friend's older TS250. He and his brother shared one. They hardly ever rode it. They taught me how to ride. They were horrible instructors, but I survived, and I put more miles on that bike while I was in high school than they did combined. And that was the influence to go out and buy that first bike.
TS wasn't the greatest bike. I think Scott Harden started his racing career on a TS 125, and he still has nightmares about that.
Mine was pretty darn dependable. The reason I ended up on another motorcycle, my used 1972 R75/5, which I still have, that I bought in 1976, was that motorcycling was an extension of backpacking for me. I was an avid backpacker, avid camper. So this allowed me to go out and ride on the Blue Ridge Parkway, find some place to tuck it into the woods and camp for the night, put some more miles on the next day. And after 20,000 miles, the TS250 was just not a great road bike. It was great when I got into the woods. And so my friend said, you got to start looking. And the fun part of this story that I like telling is that I was looking at two motorcycles in 1976. A brand new Honda 750 Sport would have been a great choice. Or a used and somewhat neglected 1972 R75/5 BMW, because a good friend of mine's brother-in-law had a R75/5. He had let me ride it, and I was just sort of hooked on the looks that everyone else thought were sort of strange, but it just fit me well. I liked it, and I bought that bike. And you know, I joked the rest is history. I wouldn't know the people I know. We wouldn't be talking this morning, because I don't think I would have been in the power sports industry if I had ended up on a Honda. It's just I met people in the community through the events, the rallies, and traveling and stuff like that, and it just kept redirecting my life.
And going back, when did you first apply for the BMW franchise?
We actually never applied for a BMW franchise. Bob's Used Parts was successful enough as a retailer, or hunter-gatherer, cleaner and seller of used parts that we quickly started needing new parts to go with the used parts. I ended up wholesaling from two different dealers, ended up importing a lot of stuff from Europe, and unbeknownst to me at the time, BMW was tracking our purchases very carefully, because this is back in the days of fax machines. So the two different dealers that I wholesaled from would give me the forms, I'd fill them out with their dealer information on it. All my days, might be 10 pages a week, send it in, and they were noticing that it was coming from a fax machine labeled Bob's Used Parts. So they kept knocking on our door. They had dealers in our region that were doing good and dealers in our region that were terribly underperforming. And their rep, someone I had known for a while through the local BMW club, kept knocking on my door, and I said, no, I'm a happy independent, doing good. I don't have to answer to anyone. And year after year after year, a guy named Pat Raymond kept asking, said, you make a great dealer. We sort of have an open point, sort of don't, but we know that you will do better than the dealers in this area. It's flattering. And eventually, the second dealer that I was wholesaling parts from just got too greedy. Every year he wanted a little bit more, a little bit more. He was going on vacations, courtesy of my buying. And I eventually said, you know what, let's have this conversation. So an application did get filled out, but I wasn't the one that asked for it. And right in the middle of this being processed, their national sales manager, their national dealer development manager were let go or left the company. And for 90 days, I have no idea what's going on. And then a couple of new guys call me up and say, we're the new dealer development manager, we're the new national sales manager, we'd like to come visit you tomorrow and pick up where we left off. They didn't even have business cards. But Joe and Paul showed up, and we got things back on track. There was an issue that BMW had with the fact that we sold used parts. They were concerned they were going to be on new bikes under a warranty, and I said, you know, why in this God's earth would I put a used part on a bike if you're going to pay me to put a new bike on a part? Makes no sense, so you don't have to worry about that. And by the way, I'm the only person in the industry that has insurance to sell used parts, which was an earlier learning lesson. I didn't know. I thought everyone that sold used parts, including the auto dismantlers, had insurance. Turns out nobody did.
Nobody
Nobody would write that insurance. So the people we work with, Erie Insurance, eventually insured every aspect of my business except the actual selling of used parts. So it was sort of frustrating, but they agreed to put me on a 3-year test period, which was a big move by them. And they said, if you are clean at the end of 3 years, if there haven't been any complaints, lawsuits, all this other stuff, we'll write you. At 2 years, they came in and said, we're good. And so we've been, I think, the only people still covered to this day. And we went forth. I acquired a good friend's local service operation. Ted Porter, still a lifelong friend. We were friends before we started, but he was the place to go to get BMW service. I was the place to get parts. Instead of buying him out, I sort of folded him into our business, or my business, Bob's BMW. Paid him a high salary instead of writing him a check for what he did. He brought a mechanic along with his expertise, and we went down the road together for 10 years, and Bob's BMW took off in the first year. We sold twice as many bikes as BMW thought we were going to.
That's a good position to be in. Things have changed a little bit. Where do you get your techs? Seems to be the common
It's the
refrain.
industry problem. For the most part, we have been the most successful home growing our technicians. Our master tech, our lead technician, and our service department lead is one and the same person. He started as the proverbial shop front, pushing a broom and cleaning equipment and pushing bikes and all that other stuff. And we knew he had a mechanical aptitude. He grew up with an auto mechanic father, and he quickly turned into an apprentice and quickly turned into our top technician. He was working with Ted and a guy named Mark Delaney that worked for us that was Ted's only employee. And we've done that several times before. We have tried all the processes. We used to regularly go down to MMA and the other training places, one in Pennsylvania, YTech, I think it is. And there would be good candidates, but getting people to move from where they are. I mean, maybe away from home at school, but if home is Florida or Texas or New England, most of them want to go back there. There's a small percentage that would really want to move. So that's barrier number one. Like any graduating class, if there's 50 people going out of there and 10 of them have been through the BMW program as well, one of those people might be a good candidate. We've been good about getting them, but not all of them have been successful. Some wash out in a year or two, some get homesick in 6 months, but we have done good. We've got a full team of 6 certified BMW technicians. We'll get to the part where 2 and the rest of them are going to be, 2 are already Ducati certified and the rest are going to be Ducati certified by the end of the year. But we've attracted more talent without advertising than anything else. But the best ones have all been in our area, that we didn't have to relocate people. That's been the biggest struggle. And
now that you mentioned Ducati, that's a new addition for you. Let's start the process over again. So you're at least jump starting that with 2 certified techs.
Yes, and one of the 2 certified techs I have had about 12 to 14 years of Ducati experience at a multi-brand shop before he joined our team. And we've always taken Ducatis in trade, so now we had someone that can really work on the bikes to a pretty great extent. So he and one of our younger techs who is showing great promise, he will probably be our next lead technician in 10 years. Our 2 lead Ducati technicians, and then one by one, everyone else will go out to California for 10 days of training this year.
We had an aftermarket symposium with the MIC yesterday, and that was one of the things that came up, is that there are careers within the power sports industry. We do a horrible job of marketing ourselves to get any sort of talent. So you've skirted that issue by home growing it. Well, what's the other messages for dealers here facing this problem?
Beat the bushes after you have established your service department as a good work environment. You know, I still walk into dealerships and they don't have air conditioning, they don't have good lighting, they're a horrible mess, they're not managed properly, all those things. I mean, the service department is not the only heart and soul of a dealership. Each department really contributes to something. But without a good service department, you won't sell many newer used motorcycles. And you will lose a lot of otherwise good customers because you've botched jobs. So you've got to have a good work environment. You know, we have everything that our techs desire. We have one dedicated person in our parts department whose sole job is to make sure they've got the parts when they need them, whether it's a special order or a bike that just showed up, or one of those oddball parts, because we stock heavily, to make sure they've got all the tools they need, whether it's manufacturer's tools, make sure they're set up with the snap-ons and the other people of the world, and help them manage their money. You know, we invest as much in their lives as we do in their work end. Because if they're happy outside, then you can make them happy inside. If they're not happy outside, you'll never make them happy inside. But each of our techs has got a comfortable work area, well lit. Our entire service department is air conditioned, so they're not dying in the summertime. We provide some of the riding gear for them, so that because a technician will wear out riding gear pretty quickly. They can't treat it as nice as a regular rider. You know, no matter how many times they wash their hands, there'll be dirt and grease that's getting on gear, and we want them in gear every time they take a test ride. And then we do a lot of in-house training throughout the year, in addition to having them go off to manufacturers training as well. So all of our technicians are capable of working on the oldest BMWs we service, which is back to 1950. Now, certainly some of them have more experience, more expertise, more love of working on older machines than some, but I don't want to ever be caught, because we were caught once a long time ago, with someone that can't do that job. So it's a matter of, I think a lot of what keeps people out of the power sports industry and is a barrier for dealers bringing people in is being a good employer. You know, we provide health care, all that other stuff, because that's what you need to do. You know, there's lots of ways people can earn money. You and I could be doing something else for a living. But if you like being in the power sports industry.
So your hobby ran amok, but it is still a professional business, and there's health care, there's all the things. This is a true career.
Oh, absolutely. And we have a lot of advancement. We have had 3 of our 6 technicians, and I think our current shop assistant, because he's expressed interest and has the skill set, is going to be one of our next technicians. Probably before the end of the year, we'll put him into an apprentice program and we'll be rehiring for his position. And one of the things that clued us in on that is that he's one of the best shop assistants we've had in a lot of years. Great work ethic, never says no, never twiddling his thumbs, he'll find something to do, even if he's gone through the backup list.
Spin off of a great working environment, you also have the museum there on site. That's not something every dealer has to offer, but that's a pretty awesome job, Kurt.
It is. You know, there's a personal part of it, a business part of it, a motorcycle community part of it, and a broader community part of it. You know, I own it all, or my wife and I own it all. We came close a number of years ago of setting it up as a nonprofit, but I decided that I'd rather have full control over it, and it's worked well. We use it for everything from taking a bike out of the museum and putting it on a lift next to a bike that we're doing a minor or major refurbishment. We use them frequently for total restorations to get all the details correctly. Because of the 106 bikes that I currently own, and there's one MV Agusta and one old Indian in there, so they're not all BMWs. Almost everything is in original cosmetic and mechanical condition. So they're good baselines. A couple of the bikes are brand new. They've never been on the road. And But then there's the fun aspect with our staff, the fun aspects with our customers, the fun aspects with having a local motorcycle club, regardless of brand, schedule an event. We've done it for the couple of car clubs. We've done it for community fundraising. So there's ways of introducing people to motorcycling through the museum aspect before you bring them into the dealership. Once a week on Saturdays when we do tours throughout the main season, we'll start with a tour of the dealership. So we'll take people through the dealership, whether they're riders or just people interested. Again, trying to set the hook on this is a great place to work. This is why your bike will be well cared for. These are all the good people that make this place happen. I just happen to have my name on the building. And then we take them over to the museum. But it's just a fabulous part of the sport and hobby, because I can spend all day over there, several days a week. So it allows me the mental separation between being in the business and being an avid rider who loves to travel. So there's part two, and then the museum is really part three. So I've got 3 separate bank accounts that I need to keep filled, and each of them sort of feed back into my desire to keep doing what I'm doing and being in the business and find the best people to be on our team and then turn them loose. We have a great general manager, and then I'll give them the opportunity to grow. So just because somebody started as a parts or apparel specialist doesn't mean they can't end up being a service advisor, running another department, a salesperson. We've got 2 people on staff so far that have been in all 3 departments, and that's not common in the industry. People are usually pigeonholed, they stay, and there's no advancement. But our current operations manager used to be our parts manager. You know, one of our best service advisors is now back in our parts department running our e-commerce operation. 10 years ago, he was one of our parts experts, and in between, he was a service advisor. So, and he spent 3 years in our motorcycle sales department. So we do give people the flexibility to move around. You want to see how their talents develop. You're part of that development process, but people sort of find their own paths, and if you don't give them extra opportunities, you're going to lose them.
And that's the other half of the equation. We got to acquire talent, we have to retain talent, and it costs more to find somebody new than it does to keep them happy.
You know, I know the industry says this 2 or 3 times, you know, or the work world out there. I think it might be 10 times the cost of losing someone to find that replacement, because it's not just the search, it's will that first person fit that role? You've got to integrate them to the team, integrate them to the way you do business, how you treat customers, how you treat each other, all that stuff. It can take several years to bring somebody in. It doesn't happen overnight.
So the nucleus of all of these things, your 3 different bank accounts, is your physical office that's undergone its own transformation and a mini museum in itself.
Yes. So I'm an extension of my love for motorcycling, and I have to back it up a second. I've been a collector of stuff all my life. Since I was a kid, maybe not a lot, but I've got bits and pieces of my life going back to at least high school, if not before then, in my home office. And my work office has been through many stages. I was the last person to get a sit-down desk in my business. I love stand-up desks. I had a big L-shaped desk in our first location, and I just simply moved that to the new location because it fit in a different shape. It went from an L shape to a long straight shape, and I had a couple of bikes on display and a big work table if I needed it. But over time, staff and customers literally pressured me to have a sit-down desk so they could come in, have a cup of coffee, have a meeting. So ended up with a leftover trade show desk. Got a great deal on it. I would have never spent the kind of money that somebody might have spent for this thing when it was brand new and on for sale. And but whether it's been going to trade shows, whether it's been going on international motorcycle travels with customers or fellow dealers, whether it has been things I've found at flea markets, or a cool new old stock part, or an industry award, just a million little things, models unassembled in their boxes, die-cast models assembled out of their boxes. A beer stein when we closed up Oktoberfest at a BMW dealer forum meeting. Just one thing after another. some art that has nothing to do with BMW, but it's still motorcycle art. And so over a course of 22 years, that office went through an evolution that made me happy to come to work, made my staff look forward to coming into my office to have a conversation about a project they were working on. It might have been a management meeting, it just might have been a one-on-one with someone that wanted to talk to the owner, and my door is almost always open, even though people would see my general manager first. But you know, I still have my name on the building, and I'm still actively involved. And customers, you know, I'm thankful that we've done things well enough. My team has done things well enough over the years. I don't get too many unhappy customers in my office. That happens occasionally, hence the ashes of problem customers on my desk.
A little reminder there, front and center.
And one of our vendors gave me the little squishy toy with a guy all tied up just right on top of it nicely. But customers love coming in there. So when we do this dealership tour, and we often do it for just a visitor here and there, my staff has permission to interrupt what they're doing when we've got a new visitor to our dealership, whether they're planning to buy a motorcycle or not. They're in there. We want to set the hook in terms of what we do, and that is different from where they might else spend money on a BMW or another brand motorcycle. So they get the $25 tour. The last stop is my office, even if I'm not in there, because I think that passion comes across to customers, that if this is what the owner's office looks like, these people must be really involved in what they do and get it. And so that has been literally a 22-year collection. Things have come and gone. And now my office is a boutique apparel area. Part of our transition, we needed space for Ducati. We needed space for the high-end riding gear that we carried. So that had been in the work. That change had been in the works for probably 6 or 7 years, and I was resistant. And then when the Ducati decision came along, I said, this makes perfect sense. We have a finished basement in our house. I live 4 miles away, and I literally have walked to work. And I said, you know what? I got to turn this around the way we normally do. I'm looking at this, oh my gosh, I have to undo this cool office. I get to do it all again. So some of the things that have been in the office are in the museum, because they belong to the museum. So I got to enhance the museum. Some of the things are going in the home office. I have this other home office, which has been my personal one on a different level. Some of the things up there will go to the museum. Some of the things will go to the home office. That's new. I've got room for a small conference there, you know, 4 or 5 people. So 4 miles away, if a couple of customers want to come over and chat with me and it's not a day I'm in the dealership, tell them to park their bikes out by the garage. Come on in the back door. So it's exciting. So over the last couple of months, maybe 3 months together, while we've been working on renovations to get the Ducati stuff in, change my office to an apparel office, I'm working on my home garage, the museum, the dealership, the home office, and Ducati. It's been a whirlwind. It's been a lot of hours, but it's been all very positive, and enjoyed it. And a bunch of displays in the museum and the dealership that I've been trying to get to for several years all got done in that 90 days.
As if you didn't have enough going on with all of that, you're now the latest board member for the National Powersport Dealer Association. How did that come about?
Right, one of 2 just joined. Mark Sheffield is the other one. And I'm excited about that. My peers on the BMW side of the industry have always known me to be outspoken. On days I think BMW identifies Bob as a thorn in their side, but I'm an honest thorn in their side. You know, dealers have needs, manufacturers have needs. There ought to be a lot more middle ground. We're seeing it in the world of politics today, but this is business, and business is different. It's for us to meet in the middle, come up with an agreement that everybody wants to sign, versus backing off into corners with weapons, which seems to be the current place for a lot of, not just BMW, a lot of manufacturers. And so I've served on BMW's dealer forum for 2 shifts. I did BMW's financial services advisory panel for a 1-2-year program. So I know the workings pretty well. I know the people pretty well. I try to engage BMW as often as possible. And look, you know, there's another way to look at this. Use your dealers as a resource, because our resource are our customers. Okay, so that follows up the chain. If you make all the decisions up here, we can't get what we need down here to grow your brand, to sell more of your product, which is the end goal. So I've been very active in the Maryland Motorcycle Dealers Association. We are now merging with the Maryland Automobile Dealers Association, because we have the same attorney and the same lobbyist, and they can get a lot more done, and 95% of the issues to be addressed, resolved, discussed, negotiated are the same. And so we've already had a couple of meetings there. The moment the MIC opened up their organization to dealers, we joined, and so we've been very active in the MIC as well. I've been down to Washington a couple of times to lobby politicians. And so as the NPDA was forming and I was watching it form, and I've known many of the people that are on the current board for quite a number of years, we joined there immediately. In fact, we joined for 3 years. So this is not a short-term commitment. This is what we've needed all along. I and another dealer in Oregon especially tried diligently to get a BMW dealer organization together so that we could speak as one collective voice, not to be yelling at BMW, but to be having a cup of coffee at a table and saying, how do we make this better for you, for us, and the customers? The world should be a win-win-win whenever possible. So what Bob and his team that started the NPDA, and you're on that board as well, and I'm excited to be part of that. Everyone brings their own piece of expertise, their own perspective on different issues. There'll be a lot of hard work ahead because we're young, but I'm excited. I got a communication out to every BMW dealer in the country before I came to the show, and I believe one or two already signed up in just that week. So hopefully I'll get to talk to some of them here, but there'll be dealer meetings I'll get to talk to them at, and I will follow up. I'll start with the 30 plus or minus dealers out of 160 that I talk to all the time and say, you've got to join. And then we have this great opportunity with Tucker Rocky, so there's an even better financial incentive for them if they're on the fence. But I'm pretty sure that now that we have this growing organization, I can convince the majority of my peers, the ones I've known for a long time and worked with, and the ones that have joined the BMW organization in the last 5 or 10 years that I've maybe only met once, to come on. And I think that this is going to be the organization that's going to help the power sports industry grow for the dealers, for the manufacturers of the motorcycles, and for the manufacturers and distributors of all the other products. And the final end result will be is that the consumer is going to get a much healthier organization out there from coast to coast that is there to take care of their needs to make motorcycling fun. I see nothing but positives there, and hopefully none of the manufacturers go, oh my God, these people are going to be too big. We won't be able to get done what we need. No, we're the ones that are going to help them get done what they need and what we need at the same time. So I'm excited about that.
That is awesome. Bob, thank you very much.
Oh, Robin, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you for the opportunity.